The rain was coming down in sheets as I drove home from the office, each drop a tiny hammer blow against the windshield, mirroring the relentless pounding in my chest. My name is Silas, and until a few weeks ago I thought I had it all. A successful career as a software architect in Seattle, a beautiful home overlooking Puget Sound, and a wife, Meredith, who I adored. We'd been married for 15 years, a decade and a half of shared dreams, quiet evenings, and the comfortable rhythm of two lives intertwined. Or so I thought. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly. Meredith, a talented graphic designer, began working longer hours at her new firm. Dinners were missed, weekends were filled with urgent projects, and the warmth I'd always known in her eyes seemed to flicker and fade. I chalked it up to the pressures of a demanding job, offering support and understanding, always ready with a listening ear and a comforting embrace. How foolish I was. The first real crack appeared on a Tuesday morning. Meredith had already left for work when I realized I needed a specific file from her computer. I knew her password, a combination of our anniversary date and our dog's name, Buster, and I thought nothing of logging in. I found the file I needed quickly enough, but then, almost against my will, my gaze drifted to her email inbox. It was a moment of weakness, a fleeting lapse in judgment that would forever alter the course of my life. I told myself it was just curiosity, a harmless peek behind the curtain. But deep down, I think I already suspected something was wrong. The email was from someone named Jasper. The subject line was innocuous enough, project update, but the content was anything but. It was filled with veiled compliments, shared jokes, and a level of intimacy that sent a cold shiver down my spine. "I can't stop thinking about last night," one line read. That kiss in the elevator, I didn't need to read any further. The words hit me like a physical blow, stealing my breath and leaving me reeling. My Meredith, my wife, the woman I trusted more than anyone in the world, was having an affair. The rest of the day was a blur. I went through the motions at work, but my mind was a chaotic storm of disbelief, anger, and a gut-wrenching sense of betrayal. I replayed every interaction with Meredith over the past few months, searching for clues I had missed, signs I had ignored. The late nights, the unexplained absences, the subtle shifts in her demeanor, it all suddenly made sense, painting a picture of deception that was both horrifying and heartbreaking. I considered confronting her immediately, but I knew I needed more information. I couldn't act on a single email, no matter how damning it seemed. So I made a decision that felt both necessary and deeply unsettling. I would play along, pretend I knew nothing, and gather the evidence I needed to confront her with the full truth. The next few weeks were agonizing. Every smile from Meredith felt like a lie, every touch a betrayal. I found myself scrutinizing her every move, searching her face for any hint of guilt or remorse. I installed a hidden camera in our living room, a desperate act born of desperation and a burning need to know the extent of her deception. I hated myself for it, for stooping to such a level, but I felt I had no other choice. The video footage confirmed my worst fears. It showed Jasper, a slick, arrogant man with a predatory gleam in his eyes, arriving at our house one afternoon while I was at work. It showed Meredith greeting him with a warmth and affection she hadn't shown me in months. And then it showed them kissing, embracing, and disappearing into our bedroom. The images seared themselves into my memory, a permanent scar on my soul. That night I waited for Meredith to come home. I sat in the living room, the video playing on a loop on my laptop, my heart pounding in my chest like a trapped bird. When she finally walked through the door, her face lit up with a practiced smile. "Hi, honey," she said, her voice bright and cheerful. "How was your day?" I stood up, my hands trembling, and closed my laptop. "It was fine," I said, my voice tight with suppressed emotion. "How was yours?" "Busy," she replied, shrugging off her coat. "We're working on a big new campaign, so things are pretty hectic." "Really?" I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "I thought you might have been otherwise occupied." Her smile faltered, a flicker of unease crossing her face. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice suddenly guarded. I didn't answer. Instead, I picked up my laptop and turned it towards her, pressing play on the video. Her eyes widened in horror as she watched herself, her face contorting with shock and disbelief. "Silas," she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "I can explain, explain," I roared, my anger finally erupting. "Explain how you could betray me like this. Explain how you could desecrate our marriage, our home, our lives with your lies and your infidelity." She burst into tears, sinking to her knees and begging for forgiveness. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "It was a mistake, it didn't mean anything." But I didn't believe her. The passion in her eyes when she kissed Jasper, the tenderness in her touch, it was all too real, too genuine to be a mere mistake. "Who is he?" I demanded, my voice cold and hard. "Who is this man you've been sleeping with?" She hesitated for a moment, then whispered, "His name is Jasper. He's a colleague at work." "How long has this been going on?" "A few months," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "A few months," I repeated, my voice laced with disbelief. "And all this time you've been lying to my face, pretending everything was fine." She didn't answer, her head bowed in shame. I spent the next few days in a daze, numb with shock and grief. I moved into the guest room, unable to bear the thought of sleeping in the same bed as her. I consulted with a lawyer who advised me to file for divorce immediately. Meredith begged me to reconsider, promising to end the affair and work on our marriage. But the trust was gone, shattered beyond repair. I couldn't forgive her, not after what she had done. The divorce proceedings were messy and acrimonious. Meredith fought me every step of the way, trying to minimize her culpability and maximize her share of our assets. She even tried to blame me, claiming I had been distant and emotionally unavailable. But I had the video evidence, and the truth eventually prevailed. In the end, I got everything I wanted: the house, the majority of our savings, and sole custody of Buster, our beloved golden retriever. Meredith was left with nothing but her guilt and the wreckage of our shattered marriage. But even as I celebrated my legal victory, I couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness that gnawed at my soul. I had won the battle, but I had lost the war. My marriage was over, my heart was broken, and my life would never be the same. As I began to rebuild my life, I found solace in my work, my friends, and my dog. I started going to therapy, trying to process the trauma and learn to trust again. It was a long and difficult journey, but slowly, gradually, I began to heal. One evening, a few months after the divorce was finalized, I received an unexpected phone call. It was from a woman named Gwyneth. She said she was Jasper's wife, and she had heard about what had happened between Meredith and him. She wanted to meet me. I was hesitant at first, but curiosity got the better of me. We met at a small coffee shop in downtown Seattle. Gwyneth was a striking woman with a quiet strength and a sadness in her eyes that mirrored my own. We talked for hours, sharing our stories of betrayal and heartbreak. We discovered that we had a lot in common: a love of art, a passion for travel, and a deep appreciation for loyalty and honesty. Over the next few months, Gwyneth and I grew closer. We found comfort and support in each other's company, and slowly, tentatively, a new relationship began to blossom. It wasn't a replacement for what I had lost, but it was something new, something hopeful, something real. One day, Gwyneth told me that Jasper had been fired from his job after his affair with Meredith came to light. He was now unemployed and struggling to find work. Meredith, too, had faced consequences. She had been ostracized by her colleagues and forced to leave her firm. Her reputation was tarnished and her career was in tatters. I felt a pang of sympathy for her, but I couldn't bring myself to forgive her. She had made her choices, and she had to live with the consequences. Gwyneth and I continued to build our lives together. We traveled to Europe, visited art museums, and adopted a second dog, a scruffy terrier we named Lucky. We found happiness in each other's arms, a happiness that was all the more precious because it had been forged in the fires of betrayal. Looking back, I realized that Meredith's affair was the most painful experience of my life, but it was also a catalyst for change. It forced me to confront my own vulnerabilities, to reevaluate my priorities, and to discover a strength and resilience I never knew I possessed. And ultimately, it led me to Gwyneth, the woman who helped me heal my broken heart and find love again. A love that was built on honesty, trust, and a shared understanding of the pain and the promise of a new beginning.